In the same way that you can't generalize about police officers who do an extraordinarily tough job, overwhelmingly they do it professionally. You can't generalize about protesters who, it turns out, had some very legitimate grievances. The Justice Department report showed that they were being stopped. African Americans were being stopped disproportionately, mainly so the city could raise money, even though these were unjust.
This guy is some piece of work. Joining us now is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Missouri, Republican Peter Kinder. Hello, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. You know, first of all, it's so misleading that what he said, because they weren't when he says they had legitimate grievances, they weren't burning down stores and looting and rioting and shooting people and throwing bottles at cops over being stopped disproportionately by about 10% in traffic stops. They were reacting to a false premise allowed to fester and promoted by Obama and Holder: hands up, don't shoot.
Yes, the whole blow up of this protest movement was based on the lie of that never happened, of hands up, don't shoot. But it's bad enough the protesters were behaving that way, but we have a right to expect much more from the Attorney General, the head of the Justice Department of the United States, and the President of the United States. And instead, what we got too often from them was incitement of the mob and encouraging disorder in Ferguson and disrupting the peaceable going about of our daily lives in the greater St. Louis region. It's been enormously destructive and enormously hurtful. Ferguson is not a slum area. It is not even a declining area. It is a stable community filled with good people, solid businesses. It was actually experiencing something of a renaissance of businesses, small businesses, in the area where the rioting broke out before the 9th of August. And it's been an enormous injustice perpetrated upon the good citizens of Ferguson and the St. Louis region by an Attorney General and a President who took one side in this.
Why? Why do you believe? Do you believe it's solely race? Do you believe it's a chip on their shoulder? Do you believe it's an agenda? Why do you believe this is the case, sir?
Well, we've never seen an administration like this. We've never seen a Department of Justice like this, staffed with radical, hard left, radical leftist lawyers. They are not like any Justice Department in American history, and Eric Holder is unlike any previous Attorney General. Many of them have spent most of their careers defending Black Panthers and other violent radicals and saying, as the President did so many times, and in the clip you just quoted, that they have legitimate grievances that we must pay attention to. There are some legitimate grievances out there, and I will say that anything legitimately identified in the DOJ report, where reforms are needed, they're being made. We have had police officers dismissed. We've had other police officers disciplined. We've had the resignation of both the chief of police and the city manager, both last week, right before the trouble started again. At some point, the protesters need to give us a respite. That point has come and gone. We're past time when we need them to give us a rest. The good business people along these streets in Ferguson are crying out to be left alone and not having mobs of protesters out there that shut down the street and make it impossible for them to open their doors and do business and provide jobs for people who need them in the community.
And what do you think the likelihood of that is, that it will happen anytime soon?
Well, I'm hopeful. There were some sane voices who stood up Saturday at a press conference, including an African-American minister whose name I don't know, but I saw him on the 10 o'clock news in St. Louis on Saturday night. And I was very heartened by his message, which was just what I conveyed. He was not alone. He was joined by the small business owners of a pub here and a retail shop there, who said, look, we're working 6 and 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, to provide jobs for people in the community, and the protesters are making it impossible for us to keep our doors open when the police have to shut the street down because there are 200 protesters out there.
Well, How much do you believe networks, CNN, I don't know what MSNBC did in this particular case, but CNN sent like almost every anchor there after the police officers were shot and did their shows from there. Is it true, would you say, that once these band of protesters know that the cameras are there, they're going to show up and that the networks are making this worse?
Well, there's definitely a role that the media, especially the national media, played in magnifying this to not only a national incident and cause célèbre, but an international incident. And we saw it in the declining enrollment in some of the institutions of higher education. The University of Missouri St. Louis said that their international students' enrollment in the fall semester was way down, because if you were in Cape Town, South Africa, and planning to enroll at UMSL, University of Missouri St. Louis, last fall, all of a sudden in the second week in August, it looked like all of St. Louis was ablaze, when in fact it was confined to about a 3-block area.
Yep. Let me ask you this, in your opinion, is there more racism in the Justice Department than there is in the town of Ferguson and their police department?
There is more racism in the Justice Department than there is in any, than anywhere I see in St. Louis area. We are making progress. We've come an enormous way in 50 years. That's not to say we don't have still more to do, but it is the left, it is the Eric Holder and Obama left and their minions who are obsessed with race, while the rest of us are moving on beyond it.
Yeah. Well, listen, and of course you're left out of the loop, aren't you, as a Republican when it comes to what's going on, and that's unfortunate.
The governor communicates effectively with no one, not the mayors when their towns were burning, except he does get on the phone to Valerie Jarrett in the White House that night.
Yeah, well, a lot of people think there's a lot of shots that she calls. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much. Keep speaking out. We appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, very interesting. More racism in the Justice Department than anywhere in that whole area of Missouri. And I believe that a lot of people would agree with the Lieutenant Governor. And it's a darn shame, and it's an outrage that that the governor has been AWOL. A Democratic governor, Governor Nixon, has just been AWOL, and as you heard, does check in with Valerie Jarrett, though, at the White House, apparently. When we come back, the founder of the Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust, where's that gone? Matt Whitaker, don't go away.